Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Surah An-Nisaa आयत 8 से शुरू होना
Huzur
ना
is asking if we're beginning from Surah An-Nisaa verse 8 today.
वो बात
Huzur
करने
is
का
saying
मतलब
today
है
the
उसमें सवाल जवाब के लिए
last
रखना है
half an hour we have to
आपके पास
keep
भी
for
हैं सारे जो सवाल करने वाले
questions. Huzur is saying
और
that you've
इलावा
also
भी
got
बाहर
some
से अगर कोई
questions, and if
आदमी
there's any questions from
यहाँ
the
पे कोई लोग
outside or
सवाल करना
someone
चाहें
from here wants to ask a question, then they can.
इसलिए याद
Huzur is
करा
saying
देना
remind
कंप्लीट
me
करना
5 minutes before.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم للرجال نصيب مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون وللنساء نصيب مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون مما قل منه وكثر نصيبا मफरूदा। मर्दों के लिए भी हिस्सा है, एक मुअय्यन हिस्सा है, नसीबुन मिम्मा तरकल वालिदान वल अक़रबून।
This is verse 8
जो
of
कुछ
chapter An-Nisa.
उसके
For
वालिदान
men is a share,
या अक़रबून में
for men is a
अक़रबा ने
share of
छोड़ा
that
हो,
which parents and near relatives relations live, and for
वलिन्निसाए
women is a
नसीबुम
share of
मिम्मा
that which
तरकल
parents and near
वालिदान वल
relatives leave,
अक़रबून।
whether it be little or much, a
और
determined
औरतों के
share.
लिए भी एक हिस्सा है जो उनके वालिदैन या उनके अक़रबा ने छोड़ा हो, क़ल्ल मिन हो और कसुर, खा वो थोड़ा हो खा वो ज़्यादा हो। नसीब मफरूज़ा एक ऐसा हिस्सा है जो फ़र्ज़ है कि उनको अदा किया जाए।
It's a portion that it is an obligation that they receive. So it is not a distinction of less or more. Inheritance is a law on which is essential an obligation for everyone to act. This is verse 8 of chapter An-Nisaa, that's chapter 4.
इससे पहले जो
Before this, Huzur is saying that the verse that has passed,
पढ़ के सुनाए ना,
Huzur is asking Mini Javed Sahib to read it.
ये है वब्तुल यतामा। हाँ जी, वब्तुल यतामा हत्ता इज़ा बलगुन निकाह फ़इन आनस्तुम मिनहुम रुश्दन फ़दफ़ऊ इलैहिम अम्वालहुम वला ताकुलूहा इसराफ़न व बिदारन अन यकबरू वमन काना गनियन फ़लयस्ताफ़िफ़ वमन काना फ़क़ीरन फ़लयाकुल बिलमारूफ़ फ़इज़ा दफ़अतुम इलैहिम अम्वालहुम फ़अशहिदू अलैहिम वकफ़ा बिल्लाहि हसीबा। यहाँ यतामा के
Here,
मज़मून की
the subject of
हुआ है
orphans is now transferred into other
मुआशरे के अफ़राद की तरफ
matters, into other individuals of the society whose parents or their near relations pass away, and because they are of an adult age, so they cannot be counted as yatama, but the subject is the same. Therefore, this has a relationship, the deep relationship between the two verses. It says that all such people, whether they are men or women, they shall get their inheritance, and this is something that Allah has granted them, and he will also get the inheritance of near relatives as well. Huzur is saying that why have these been mentioned separately about this? Huzur is saying that I shall describe to you. For now, Huzur is saying that I will tell you with reference to dictionaries and commentaries. I shall tell you the meaning of nasib, what nasib means. First of all, we say nasab means to make something stand, or to raise it like a flag, and to tell someone in the world that to identify a space. So it is like they say in Arabic that someone has embedded an animosity in their heart about someone. Huzur is saying this is how we use it in Arabic, in Urdu as well. Nasaba shaya, to look, to put something down below. Huzur is saying the word is not nasaba. After this, it doesn't mean, it means to keep it low. Ansabahu jalahu nasiban. Ansaba means for him to to set a portion for someone. So this nasib means that Allah has kept a portion, and every part of that is called nasib. Tanasabu shaya, taqasabuhu. They distributed some things among each other. And in this regard, nasib, because it's distributed, so this word nasib is used, is an appropriate use of the word. And nusb is something which is embedded, or is also destiny. It also refers to destiny, and also means a part of something, or a portion of a small portion, which is in one's destiny, in one's nasib, that is, it is in one's destiny. Huzur is saying in the same exact meanings we used the word nasib in Urdu and Punjabi as well. Huzur is saying that this is used in exactly from every respect. It's exactly like Arabic, it's used in our language and is firmly established. In Tafsir Bari Muhit, it says that Ruhi, I think Huzur said, he said that the people of Iran used to give all the women all the wealth, because women can't earn after a while, and Arabs did not used to give any money to inheritance to they didn't used to give any money to their daughters. So they're saying that this is this is not really important to say the reason for this, that this is the reason for this, the revelation of this verse is a very permanent subject which is mentioned here, and which is, and it's a very detailed teaching and very balanced teaching that is found in the Holy Quran with respect to inheritance. So we're saying that different peoples have different character, but in every custom you find a injustice. In Iran, they give the girls everything and don't give anything to the boys, whereas in other places it's the other way around. And in the Jewish teachings will be mentioned as well that the girls only get it if there is no boys, otherwise they are left without any inheritance. So in every religion there is a teaching of inheritance, but it's not sufficient, and sometimes there is no mention of it at all. It is just left as a custom. In Tafsir Qasmi, the reason for the revelation of this verse is mentioned that according to with reference to the Arab custom, that people did not used to give inheritance to women. They said that only those will become our inheritors who looked after their wealth by getting spoils of war. So they used to deny not only women their rights of inheritance, but also children were denied the right of inheritance. Hazrat Ibn Abbas, this is statement is recorded, and Imam Razi has mentioned it in his commentary. Hazrat Ibn Abbas, his statement, according to him, Aws bin Sabit al-Ansari passed away, and he left a widow and three orphan girls. And whether this happened in the Battle of Badr, Rasul is saying that the word should have been shaheed, martyr. So it means that he didn't die in a battle, he died by himself. So the people who were his inheritors, that means that those people who should have received the wealth were Urfaja and Suwaj, I think Huzur said, two people, and they came and they
तमाम माल पर कब्जा कर लिया
they took all of his
और
wealth,
ना बेवा के लिए कुछ छोड़ा ना
and he
बच्चों
left
के लिए।
nothing for the widows, the widow or the girls.
हज़रत सल्लल्लाहु
And then
अलैहि
that
वसल्लम की
widow
खिदमत में हाजिर
went
हुई
to the Holy Prophet sallallahu
और
alaihi
अर्ज़
wasallam
किया कि ये
and
वाक़या
said
गुज़रा है,
that this incident
क्या
has
हमारे लिए
occurred.
कुछ भी नहीं है?
Is there nothing for us? And
इसके जवाब में हज़रत सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि
sallallahu
वसल्लम
alaihi
ने
wasallam,
फरमाया,
at this the Holy
घर
Prophet sallallahu
जाओ,
alaihi wasallam said
इंतज़ार करो,
that go home and
अल्लाह
wait.
ताला तेरे बारे में क्या
Allah,
फैसला फरमाता है,
we'll see what Allah
इस बात
says
का
about you. Wait for
इंतज़ार
this.
तब रसूल सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम पर
Then the Holy
ये
Prophet
आयत नाज़िल हो
ﷺ
गई।
had
इस
this
आयत के
revelation,
नज़ूल को
and
इस
this
रिवायत में बहुत महदूद किया है
this
और मेरे
incident
नज़दीक
has
रॉडवेल
limited.
ने जो इस पर तबसरा किया है वो ज़्यादा माकूल और
And I was already
समझदार
saying
है।
that
रॉडवेल इसी बहस में ये सवाल उठाता है,
Rodwell says about this.
कहता है ये जो रिवायत दर्ज हुई है उस औरत के
He
मुताबिक,
said that this incident that is reported about this lady, this
इससे मिलती जुलती रिवायात में
a similar
6 मुख्तलिफ
reference,
नाम लिए गए हैं।
6 different names have been taken,
वो
that
जो
been mentioned.
हमन का नाम जो
That
फौत
means
हुआ
that
था,
the husband
एक
who
रिवायत
died
में कुछ और है,
in
दूसरी
one
में कुछ और, तीसरी में
report is
कुछ और,
something else and
तो
another one
एक
is
औरत
something
के
else,
हवाले से
and then
मुख्तलिफ
with
नाम हैं।
reference to one lady the
कहता है
different
इससे हम
names are
दो नतीजे
mentioned.
निकाल सकते हैं,
And he
या
said
तो
that
ये
we
कि
can only
मोहम्मद
derive 2 conclusions
रिवायात
from
हैं
this, which means that
काबिल एतबार नहीं,
either that these
कि
reports are
इतना उनमें
not
बुनियादी
worthy
फ़र्क है,
of being trusted because
लेकिन
there's such a
एक इसकी
difference
तौजीह है
between them, but there is a
और वो
reason for
माकूल
this,
तौजीह
and
है
which is what
कि
one thing he derives,
वो
which
कहता है
is
कि उस
logical.
ज़माने
He
में
says
जबकि जंग
that
हो
at
रही
that
थी
time when there were battles
और भी बहुत
taking
से ऐसे थे
place,
जो
there were many
बेबाप से रह
others
गए थे।
who had been
It
left
is
without
however
fathers.
probable that
It
these
is,
and
however,
similar
probable
laws
that these
relative
and
to
similar laws
inheritances
relative to
were given at a
inheritances
time when
were
many
given
heads
at a
of
time when
families
many heads
had
of
fallen
families had
at
fallen
Uhud in battle।
at Uhud in battle.
तो बहुत माकूल बात है इसकी,
So this is a
अक्सर
very it's a
ये
logical
मुतबादिल बातों को
explanation.
करता
Huzur
है
is saying
रॉडवेल,
that he usually
कहता है
presents
इसको एक रिवायत को
logical
महफूज
things. He
मानना
says
दुरुस्त
that
नहीं है,
to
वरना
limit
फिर
it to
रिवायतों का
one
एतबार ही उठ
incident
जाएगा।
is wrong.
गालिबन
Otherwise,
बहुत से
you
ऐसे
will not
वाक़यात
lose
हैं
your trust in
जिनके
such
उहद के ज़माने में ये
occasions.
आयत नाज़िल हुई है, जबकि कई शहीद हुए हैं।
Huzur is
इन
saying that there
शुहदा
are
में
many
से
such incidents which
कई
must have
ऐसे हैं
occurred
जिनकी
in
सिर्फ
that
बेटियां
battle of
होंगी, बेटा
Uhud.
कोई नहीं होगा।
There were
बस
many martyrs, and
मौका और
some
महल
of
के मुताबिक
there might have been
ये
quite a few
आयत
of them who
एक
had
से
no
ज़्यादा
no
मजलूमून
sons
के
and only
हक में
daughters.
उनके हकूक़ के
So
क़याम की खातिर नाज़िल हुई है और
it
जो आइंदा मुस्तकिल
was
तौर पर एक रहनुमा असूल था जिसमें
it
इस्तेमाल किया
was
जाना चाहिए।
it was
लेकिन मौका
addressing
ये
all
है,
of those
ये जो
people,
रॉडवेल की
and
राय है ये उन
for the future
मुफस्सिरीन
generations
की
as
राय के
well. It was
मुताबिक
to
बहुत
help.
ज़्यादा
So Huzur is
वज़नी,
saying that this is a very
माकूल और
weighty
अंदरूनी दलाइल असरसार रखती है।
commentary that Rodwell has presented, and it has internal proofs of its truth.
इब्न कसीर ने भी वही रिवायत ली
Ibn
है और बयान
Kathir
की
has
है
also
और
mentioned
उसी की बहस
what
में
I
रॉडवेल ने
have
लिखा कि ये
mentioned,
रिवायत
and
एक तरह नहीं आई,
Rodwell has said
6
about this
मुख्तलिफ
that
नामों से आई हुई है।
this has come
इसलिए
from 6
लाज़िमन
different
एक से ज़्यादा
directions,
वाक़यात हैं
6
जो मिलते
different
जुलते हैं
similar
और
incidents. So
उनके
it must have
मुताबिक
been
अल्लाह
more
ताला
than
ने
one
नाज़िल फरमाई
incident,
है।
and
ये
Allah
दुरुस्त नहीं
revealed
और
it
जो
about
ये
this. So
पूछा जाओ तो
doesn't
ठहरो
mean
और
that
इसका इंतज़ार करो,
that another
बल्कि
that
सूरत हाल
time
की
after
इताला
time
कर
people
रहे हैं
kept going
और इस
to the
सूरत
Holy
हाल
Prophet
के
ﷺ
ऊपर
asking
ये
them
आयत
to
नाज़िल
resolve
हुई है।
such problems. So that's not the case. It must have been
हज़रत मुस्लिम
this
माऊद
particular
ने इस आयत के
situation,
ज़मीन में ये
and
सवाल उठा,
then
ये बात
this
ये
verse was
आयत
revealed
ये बयान फरमाई है, ये आयत वरसा के
to
मुताबिक
address that, and others as well.
चाहे इसका नाम वसीयत रखें और चाहे तर्क,
The Muslim Azan who
दोनों
says that
सूरतों में
this
आयत ये कहती
is
है कि कोई शख्स
this
का थोड़ी
is
जायदाद
saying
छोड़े या
that if
ज़्यादा,
someone
उसके
leaves
बेटे जो बच्चे
less
हैं उसके वारिस
inheritance
हैं।
or more, his
कुरान करीम की
children
इस
are
आयत में इस बात का जिक्र नहीं,
sons and
वसीयत
daughters
नज़ूल
are
इसीलिए की गई
its
है वो
inheritors. The Holy
कितने
Quran does
माल
not
की हो,
say
बल्कि यहाँ ये जिक्र
that
है कि
how
वो
much
किस हैसियत की
inheritance
है
should be
और उसको
according to
वापस करना
Islam.
चाहिए, खा
It
वो
is
थोड़ा हो
saying that
या ज़्यादा हो।
if someone leaves
ये
anything
थोड़े और
behind,
ज़्यादा
whether
की
it's
बहस
less
है,
or more, it should be left for his
ये बहुत
given
अहम
to his
बहस है,
children.
इसकी तरफ
As we are
मैं भी
saying that
वापस
this
आता हूँ।
discussion of whether it's less or more is very important discussion, and I'll turn to this later. للرجال نصيب مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون وللنساء نصيب مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون مما قل منه وكثر نصيب مفروضا.
मर्दों के लिए
For men, there is a set portion which what their parents leave, wal aqrabun, and what their close relations leave. Huzur is saying that what the parents leave, then the sons will be inheritors, and if so Huzur is saying that how could, and it will also be given to the daughters, so then how will it be given to their close relations? So Huzur is saying that when parents leave something behind, then the inheritors will be the sons or daughters. So what the other, so how can the other relations become how could they partake of the inheritance? Because if there's more than one son or daughter, then they have to be distributed in a particular way. There is two parts to be given to the son and one part to be given to the daughter, and the near relations doesn't seem to have any portion left for them. So from wal aqribun, Huzur saying that the meaning that I derive from it, which is the logic of this, is that in principle this is the title of inheritance, is a this says that the first right of over the inheritance the parents leave is on the children, because because the parents are responsible for looking after their children, and their rights, their responsibility have been given to the parents. So the same rights also fall upon the people's inheritance rights. So it's the parents' responsibility to look after their children, and if the parents usually die first and the children die afterwards, and because of this principle, the first mention has been made of those children whose parents die. If they remain alive, and if the parents remain alive and the children die, then the Holy Quran, with the same principle, he sheds light on it, and he said then they will also take a part of it. So the first people who are sharers are the parents, because when you understand this relationship, the ones that to whom a responsibility is given, then when they pass away, then the same responsibilities will be transferred. When the parents were alive, then the near relations did not have any they did not have any responsibility. It's Allah keeps saying in the Holy Quran to take care of near relations. So morally, those parents who are saying any two parents who also have children, if as an obligation, according they weren't bound to give something to their near relations. In the law, if they are bound to help anyone, it's their own children. And if you read the rest of them in the light of this principle, then there is no confusion. And if you forget this principle, then then strange religious jurisprudence matters come out, and they made this matter so complicated that that they cannot come out of it. It could also be, for example, that parents leave daughters, then and more portion than theirs is given to the daughters, because if you forget this principle and you regard the men's the rules that people have made, if you base it on that, although they've tried to base it on the Holy Quran, but they forget that the philosophy of inheritance is that those people whom you are responsible for when you're alive, then afterwards as well, they are the first people to use the money that they have been using during their during your lifetime, and whom you have taken it from, those on whom you are, then they will be the first. Um, if a child dies, then they will have to their money will have to go to their parents first. So we're saying that these are the principles that have to be should be kept as a clear guide. If you have this guide, this lamp in your hand, then you will stop. You will not trip. But if you undertake your journey without this lamp, then you will trip, and you will go into such problems that it will be as if you are stuck in quicksand and you won't be able to come out. So, in this regard, the Jamaat Ahmadiyya's inheritance rules should be thought about once again, because there are many aspects which Huzur is saying that I keep thinking of, and I think that the jurisprudence edicts, they have people have been copying them without closing their eyes. Zulfarai, Zulfala, they're using the different terminologies, and people apply them to themselves in such a way that they have all been caught in the web, and then these jurisprudence scholars, they take this from one place to another, and the real soul of the Holy Quran is trying to do is completely lost, and it just becomes a logical discussion. So by ignoring this principle, the soul of the Holy Quran, which is exactly in accordance with nature, if you keep that your guiding principle, then if there is any doubt in some verses, then those are called mutashabihat, and you should translate them in the light of these verses, which are muhkamat. So the first is this is the title verse of this subject of inheritance. So Huzur is saying that how will the Akrabun get their, why are their relatives mentioned? When the parents die, then their children become the inheritors of all the wealth. So this has to do with orphans. It has to do with that with that subject was mentioned previously, that this also applies to that situation. Often it happens that a person has died, and if even if he leaves inheritance, if his children is very small and it's not enough to be enough, it is not enough to take care of them. For example, if there is um, a laborer who does labor, he labors to feed his children, but when he dies, then the real source of responsibility of the feeding, etc., of the orphans, they he's when he's gone, then they don't have anything left, basically hardly anything left. And so it means those children, those near relations, that if there are no parents, and then the ones who if somebody loses their parents and there are no inheritors, then they become responsible, and they are the ones who are the recipients of the inheritance. So the Holy Quran is saying that that favor should be returned with a favor. This is if in daily life some poor people, for the care of certain people, their near relatives take on the responsibility, who are usually the brothers of etc. of the person who has died. Then when they die, then they should also be they should also share in their wealth. And this is the basic matter. So when aqrabun are mentioned, the near relatives, then if they become under their care, then they'll become the inheritors of each other. So then if they then die, then they will get those near relations will then get the share. So when there are no children, so such children who will get their share from the akrabun as well, the near relations as well, according to the conditions which the Holy Quran explains later on. Different categories are being explained in detail, in principle. So those near relations are then meant. So those people who get that share, then the same principle will act that men or boys will have two parts and or girls will have one part, and this is the principle at which usually the inheritance is laid, and where there is an exception there are reasons for it, and the Holy Quran sheds light on it as to why this is done. Kalla minhu or kasur. Huzur is saying, what was the reason for this? It was enough that the inheritance has been given, whether it's less or more. Obviously, everyone is going to they're going to get from whatever. If they're going to get if they're poor, then they will get a lot of money, and if they are rich, sorry, very little money, but if they're rich, they'll get a lot of money. Because we're saying that the next part of the verse very clearly indicates towards this subject, otherwise it wouldn't be necessary to mention it, and this is such an important part of this verse that by ignoring it, our whole Islamic society has been destroyed in the sense of inheritance. If there is a some small things of the home which are pointless, then girls and boys both take it, they don't even care. But when it comes to inheritances and there's a lot of wealth, then there all of the people around the society, they feel upset, they feel uneasy that we should giving it to a daughter who will then take it to another family where she gets married to, and this problem has this danger has created a big problem in Islamic countries. If not in the whole of the Islamic world, then at least in India and Pakistan, this part has been ignored, and as a result of that, the whole of the system of inheritance has become thrown into confusion. People commit excesses against their children, their daughters, in two ways. First of all, when the inheritance is spread, then is distributed, then the boys take it, and the girls are left behind. And if they demand it, then people sometimes come to the matter comes to serious crimes as well, they murders, etc., because they can't bear it if another family, outside family, would take over their wealth. The Holy Quran is saying this words at the end. He's saying that make sure don't be afraid. This is if it's a lot, don't be afraid of performing this instruction. This is a part which has become an obligation by Allah, and you should not dare to stay away from it. So saying that it is very sad that this has been found its way into the Ahmadiyya society as well. He was saying that once Khalifa Salih who said that he was declaring a war against such people, and he said that before, I've been advising such people, but if such people continue, then they'll be ousted from the Jamaat who have taken the rights of their sisters. And there were many sisters who practically they weren't raising their voice, so it appeared that they don't mind, and so they did not speak because they didn't feel strong enough. But after this khutbah, a lot of girls started to speak, and women say that if we dare to ask, they'll just cast us aside, and we do not have the courage to speak. And I say to them that Allah has given you a right, and you should dare, you should have the strength to speak, because if you're keeping quiet and you're accepting this, will if they're strengthening the hands of these cruel people, then they'll become even more bold. So every Ahmadi woman should come into this field. Whoever's part has been usurped, she should definitely go to the qaza, and she should not care that what the reaction of that is going to be. And if they do this, then in the future this will be advice for people, and they'll be afraid, and this will be the same subject as is mentioned in the verse وَشَرِدْ بِهِمْ مِنْ خَلْفَهُمْ, that those people who come in front of you, you should throw the book at them, and so that others then learn the lesson. So if this hasn't happened before, and there are many farming families in which this is not, people don't care about this, so Huzur is saying that other people have taken the example, and they have continued to do this, but now the Jamaat will have to do a jihad. This Nasiba Mafruza will have to be given, and if even if such an old families have to be ousted from the Jamaat, then it's fine, you shouldn't care, because them being ousted would be good for the Jamaat, and Allah will fulfill, Allah will replenish the loss. If a woman wants to leave her share and not take it, then upon her would be the same thing would apply as had applied to that gentleman who was told to give his wife the dowry, and then if she returns it, then it should be returned. But Huzur is saying that there would be very few women who would say that, okay, I'll still return it to you once she receives the money in her hand. So Huzur is saying that another issue that raises here, which should be kept in view, is that a man who, whatever he gets in his inheritance, if he has also done wasiyat, and he gives his share to other inheritors, I don't need it. So then when he dies, then what will happen about his wasiyat? Such a case came before me, and I said that in the future there should never be accepted that I have given it to him. What you gave him, you left your right to give him, but before that you had promised Allah that I will give a tenth of all my inheritance to Allah, and you have no right to go against that promise that you made with Allah, because after the inheritance, the wasiyat is paid off, then it's the inheritance is shared afterwards. So what you have given to Allah, you cannot take back. So such a inheritance was not accepted until those people, until the inheritors' money had gave a share of their money to the Jamaat, etc. Huzur is saying that such incidents have I've faced them several times. So to leave your share is permitted, whereas as long as it doesn't affect rights which you have to fulfill. And then there's another aspect of weddings, and on which issue this has put a very negative effect. There are many farmer ladies who are not getting married, mainly because they have inheritances,
वो ख़ानदान साहिब जादाद हैं।
And because that
अगर माँ
family
बाप
is
मरे
inheritors, if the
तो
parents die,
बच्चियाँ बहुत सी
then the
बड़ी
daughters
ज़मीन विरसे में पाएंगी।
will have a lot of
अगर वो दूसरे
farms,
ख़ानदानों में भी रहें,
farming lands
अगर
as an
हकीकत
inheritance.
को
And
ना
if they
देखा
go
जाए
to
और
another
इसका फतवा ठीक
family,
हो
and if
तो
the
हो सकता है वो एक
the
गरीब ऐसे शख्स को
if
ब्याह
she
करें
marries a
जिसको ये
poor
लोग
man, for
जायदाद कमीन
example,
कहते हैं,
who these people
यानी
called
ये
Kameen,
जायदाद
that
के
is
लोग जो हासिल
without
करने वाले
any who do not
हैं।
have any
लड़कों की
inheritance, and
ज़ालिमाना
they
बात है,
only
कमीन कहने की
use
कोई सही
who
जवाब नहीं
don't
है, हरगिज़।
have their own money, they
मुराद
only
इनकी एक फ़ख्र है
work.
कि
So
हम
for them,
ज़मींदार हैं, ज़मीनों पर
they are
चलने वाले
proud,
लोग
and
हैं,
this is a very wrong
देहातों की
thing to
कमाई
say.
खाते हैं।
They said that these
अब वही
people are
ज़मींदार
mean
यहाँ के टैक्सी
because they
ड्राइव
they
करते हैं, तो
eat.
तुमको शर्म नहीं आती।
And
ज़मींदार फिर भी वही
they were
बोलेंगे।
saying that they
तो
call
देहातों की
themselves
कमाई ज़्यादा
farmers,
मौजूद है,
and
जिससे
they
कमाई
look
भी
down on
खाते
those
हो तो
people who
खाओ,
earn by their hand,
लेकिन असल
from their
बाबरकत
hands. So
कमाई
they're
वही
saying
है
that
जो
that is the real
मेहनत से कमाई जाती है, जो अपने खून पसीने के साथ
blessed
आती है।
of
ऐसे लोगों को ज़लील
money
करते
is
हैं
that which
और
is
जो विरसा पाते हैं
acquired
उनको इज़्ज़त
through
देना
hard
ये
work
नाजायज़
is
नहीं है।
more
कुरान करीम में
is better.
इसके ऊपर
And the Holy Quran
बहुत ही नापसंदगी का इजहार
has
फरमाया गया है।
expressed dislike of
जहाँ काम का जिक्र है
such
तो ये
sarcastic
जालिम ऐसे हैं
remarks,
उन गरीबों के
that
लिए
these
काम करते हैं
transgressors are
जिनका
such that they
जिनका अपनी
they
हाथ की कमाई के
have
सिवा कुछ नहीं।
those poor
पाकिस्तान से
people who have
निकलने वाली
nothing
दफ़ा बहुत
except
सी
what they earn.
हदीस लिख के भेजी थी, ये काम थे,
People
मैंने इसलिए नहीं पढ़ के सुनाई, ये काम था वो,
so we're saying that
ये सिर्फ एक
sometimes
काम नहीं है, हर किस्म के
some
काम
people
मौजूद
sent
हैं।
me a tradition
वो
in
सोसाइटी भी
which there
बड़ी
were some sarcastic
अपने
remarks were
खास
being
रवायात के ऊपर
addressed.
फ़ख्र करने वाली
And
सोसाइटी थी
that
और
society
इस
was
किस्म के
also the
मज़दूरों
time of the
वगैरह
Holy
को
Prophet
हक़ाइक़ नहीं
ﷺ.
देखते थे।
They all
वो यदि थोड़ा
also
समय
had
लेते हो तब भी
a
काम करते हैं। ये जो
poor society,
बकरियों
and
को भेड़ों में से
the
चार
people
बकरियां ले
who
आया,
were
ये
rich, they
खुशी
must
है,
have looked down on
ये
people. They
कुर्बानियां हैं,
must have
अब किसी के
said
काम भी करते
about them
रहेंगे
that look
और
at
कुछ
this
इंटरेस्टेड
tiny
जो
bit of
चंदा इकट्ठा
money
करने
that
वाले होंगे,
they are giving.
उनके ऊपर ये
And as I
काम
was
भी
saying, some
होता
of
होगा
them
कि
who
बीच में से खा गया होगा दूसरा
gave the
बड़ा
who
गरीब
took the
आदमी,
chanda, who collected it, they
इसके
might have
कपड़े हमें सफ़ेद देते हैं, वो खा
thought that
गया।
they must have taken
इस
some
किस्म
money
की
from it
बातें
for
कुरान
themselves.
के
So
बहुत
such
से
things,
इम्कानात इस्तेमालात हमारे सामने
there are
पेश हैं।
many possibilities
कुरान
of
में गरीबों पर
sarcasm that
से
are
मजदूरों
found.
पर तान करने पर
The Holy
सख्त
Quran
फरमान का
has
इजाज़
is
फरमाया
expressed extreme
और
dislike
जिनको पेशावर कहते हैं वो हैं ही वही मजदूर,
uh, of
जो अपने
sarcastic
हाथ की कमाइयाँ खाते
remarks
हैं, अपने फन
against
की कमाई खाते
people
हैं।
who work with their
एक
hands, and
ज़माने में
who
हिंदुस्तान में भी
eat
इनके
the
खिलाफ
money from their
एक
skills.
बड़ा
And there was a
कार्टून
time
छपाया जाता था।
in the
जेंट्री
UK
वो
where
थी
there was a
जो
lot of
लैंडेड जेंट्री हो, जिसके पास
prejudice
ज़मीन
against such
विरसे
people,
में
and they were gentry
आने
was
की
those
इम्कानात
people who
हैं।
were the landed gentry, who had the
हाँ वो
possibility
ज़मीनें
of
जो
having
उसमें
money,
मिले न
whether
मिले वो
they
मौजूद
should
थी,
get that money or not, but
ना
they
मिले
would be
इसलिए कि
more
अक्सर तो मिलती
respectable.
कोई नहीं थी,
And
क्योंकि लैंडेड
usually they
जेंट्री
wouldn't
वो
get
थी
it because the landed gentry were
जिनमें से जो
those
छोड़े
people
हुए
who
बच्चों में से जो सबसे बड़ा बेटा है
who's
वो
the
सर पे डाल के बिठा देते थे।
only the biggest child, the
वही
eldest child
टाइटल ले
would get
लेता था,
all the
वही
money
जेल,
and run away.
वही
He used
उस
to take the
जायदाद का
title,
मालिक और
and used to get
वाहिद
that
वारिस
all
कहलाता था।
inheritance.
अपने छोटे भाई से
And
महरूम, अपनी बहनें से महरूम।
even his younger
मगर
brothers
ये
and
इज्जत
sisters
की जो है ना
would
अना
keep away,
वो
but
मौजूद थी। तो
the
रस्सी जल गई पर बल न गया,
respect
इनकी जवालें तो ख़त्म
remained,
हो जाती थी,
the honor,
माँ बाप
the
के मरने
sense
पर
of honor
रस्सी कटती
remained.
थी, लेकिन
So
ये ठान लेते
although
थे कि हम
at
करेंगे। कुछ इस
at death
ज़िंदगी
of the
में जब कभी
fathers,
कोई
the
आजमाइश
parents,
होती तो कमाने देते होंगे और
they would
आइंदा
lose
अपनी औलाद
advantage
की
of
ज़ियारत
their
नहीं करेंगे।
parents dying, but they would
ये रिवाज
then
अभी कल
they
तक
would
की
still
बात है,
be
ये नहीं
called
है आज
that. Is
की
what he's
बात
saying,
नहीं
that
है।
some of the advantage they would still
इसलिए
have because of the
ये हर
advantage their
दुनिया में
parents'
लानत है,
education, etc. They may
हाथ
have
की
been able
कमाई
to
को
work for
बुरा समझा
themselves.
जाता
So
है
as we're
और
saying, this is in
रिश्ते की
the
कमाई को
seen in
अच्छा
the whole
समझा
world,
जाता
that the
है। अल्लाह
things that
ताला ने
people earn from their hand, they are looked
कल्ला
down
मिन्हु मा
on,
कसर में
and they look up
ये
to
भी
people
इशारा
who have
फरमाया है,
inheritances. As we're saying here, when the words kalla,
थोड़े बहुत की कोई इज्जत नहीं है, जो भी है
this
विरसे में हक़
Allah
है।
says that everything,
मगर
it doesn't
असल
matter whether
बात
it's
यह है
little
कि
or a
इस
lot,
विरसे के
you have
दौरान
a share
अक्सर
of the
लोग अपने
inheritance. But
ज़्यादा माल देखते हैं।
if you see that there is a lot of
विरसे की
wealth,
तकसीम में
and
तफरीक की
you
और खुदा के कानून में
distinguish
दखल दिया तो
between
तुम मरदूद हो जाओगे।
who should be given
फरीज़ा है जिस पर तुम्हें बड़ा माल
the
नाफिज होगा।
inheritance money, and you ignore
फिर
what
कहते
Allah
हैं
has said,
ये
then
असल तो
this is
फ़र्क है
wrong,
जो दूसरा असर
very
पड़
very
रहा है
wrong.
वो
And then Huzur is saying
बच्चियों के हकूक़
disregard the
का है,
other
लेकिन है इसी का असर।
influence of this is on the rights of girls, that if women marry someone who doesn't have any land, then where shall we go? Where will we go? Where will our inheritances will our inheritances going to cheap people? Huzur is saying that Huzur is mentioning different types of people who are called goldsmiths or something, or Huzur is saying that Huzur is using different different terminologies in Urdu describing different classes of people. Huzur is saying these are false respects. Huzur is saying that I heard about this. I was very sad to hear about a lady who was 30 years old, and they're looking for a farmer for him. Who's saying, why should I look for a farmer for him? Because they won't accept anyone else. They said, if you don't do this, you don't find him a farmer who is the same as them, so that they think that this would remain within them, then they won't accept it. And also, they say that if from the same family, extended family, if there is a boy, then that will be better, because then they'll say that the inheritance has remained within the home. And this is why she wasn't getting married. They say that there are many good in marriage matches, but they reject them. These are the occasions where the Jamaat should use its right of guardianship. The Khalifa has the right that when he sees that there are decisions made against the Holy Quran, and because someone becomes a guardian so that they can look after people's rights. But if it is used in exactly the opposite way in order to usurp people's rights and to make wrong decisions, then that guardianship comes to an end. It is not guardianship anymore. Then it returns to the system created by Allah, and in this regard the Khalifa becomes the wali, the guardian, when he realizes, when he thinks that as a result of wrong usage of guardians, then he takes a decision in his own hands. So all such matters should be sent to the main Jamaat, central Jamaat, before it's taken to the Qaza. It is better to give them to Islah or Shad or Amur-e-Amma, the different organizations within the Jamaat, or out of the scholars. Some should be appointed and a committee should be made, and among them, if there are lawyers, then they be better. And in that committee, all such girls who have been treated wrongly, they should write their circumstances, and then that committee will have to then put stress on such people, and they should try to save people from destruction if they can. But if they can't do it, then they should support the girls and give them lawyers so that they can go into Qaza. And then if the Qaza decision is disobeyed, then you should not care about what their status is in the Jamaat. They should be thrown out of the Jamaat. They cannot remain a part of the Jamaat if they openly disobey this Quranic injunction. Huzur is saying that there are some individual disobediences which Allah sorts out Himself, but there are some which affect the whole Jamaat, and you can't close your eyes from them. So we're saying that our if we understand, if we know about such things, then we'll definitely have to act in accordance with what the Holy Quran is instructing us. And they shouldn't care whether they wish to remain within the Jamaat or not. This cleansing has to be done, and wherever we have done this cleansing, this in principle by the grace of God, then the Jamaat has never had any harm done to it. In fact, it has given them many benefits. The charity portion of charity increased, and those people's wealth increased as well, who gave sacrifices in this regards. And some people individually, sometimes a person goes through trials that in that he somebody does something, withdraws from getting haram wealth, and they are put in some kind of trial. He's only saying that I can, in general, people who withdraw from such things, Allah puts a lot of blessing in their wealth, and there are some exceptions, and only Allah knows why. Maybe there was something wrong in their in their intentions, etc., because of which their trials have been extended, or perhaps it was just a trial. So if you go through that state, then Allah will give you a lot more. So this stage of trial, which such people who are in that situation or going through that situation, it is essential for them to, they should not injure their feeling of obedience, and they should be patient, and they should not say to the Jamaat and that you told us to leave it and therefore we left it. Hazur is saying them, they write it to me, then it seems as if I am responsible for all their troubles. Why don't they say that Allah had said and we accepted it, and this is why we have this problem? But they can't they don't dare to say that. Hazur is saying that, why should I don't have a right to interfere in anyone's wealth. I only convey to you what the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, and I said that it's not up to me. It is not, I cannot permit anything of the opposite of this after it's become clear. And so it's not up to me, it's up to you. If you have to listen to what the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, and if you don't, then your relationship with me would also be cut. So he's saying that they say to me that we listen to you, and now we are in trouble, we can't do any business, and we can't do any job. And then I say to them that, okay, then fight with Allah if you want to fight. There is no need to complain. If this is accepted, what they're saying is accepted, people, then everybody can go towards haram wealth. And then if this is correct, then you should go and kill people, and you steal people, and take the food of usurp the rights of orphans. So if you then say that we took such and such person's wealth back, and now we don't have any money left, so saying that your rights are that of what you earn from with your hand, and there is a respect in that, and the Holy Quran has regarded that as a respectable job. So then you should have a new, you should create a new palaces for yourself, and those palaces that you created before on haram were false, and then it is more probable that you will get blessings. Huzur is saying about such cases, Huzur is saying that I know that family for 2 or 3 years they were in a lot of trouble. Nothing was happening for them, but they had this great goodness in them, and honest. They said that they didn't say this is the reason why it happened. They said, Alhamdulillah, we've been saved from this, and now Allah will give us whenever He wants to. And they got so much blessings that they are far more now than what they had before. So this is very clear and absolutely certain that you should sort out your obedience and purify it for the sake of Allah, which means that you should not put any conditions to what Allah does. If you leave it to Allah, what Allah desires, then you will have to even if you go through poverty, then you will feel an enjoyment in it. It will not be suffering for you. You will have it. You will think that now that we are poor, we are doing this for the sake of Allah. It's up to Allah. He's the proprietor, He master. He can give us whatever He wants. We'll be happy with it. And if you do this, then by the grace of God, all problems are fulfilled. So those farmers who are afraid that we have a lot of inheritance and our daughters, etc., will take it away and go take it somewhere else, I say to them that to give blessings in inheritances is up to Allah, is in the hand of Allah, and He can reduce it as well. He is the one who is powerful, who can do whatever He likes and who can remove whatever He likes. So any of your inheritances or money that you may have usurped will not be of any use to you. It may well be that your inheritance may increase, but you will have no blessing, and your children might turn against you, or there might be some other troubles, because if you try to acquire wealth going against the Holy Quran. That's what he's saying, that these are the things that I wanted to mention, but other than that, all the other discussions are minor discussions of grammar, etc. Or the dictionaries have put emphasis on different aspects. So they're saying, however, there are some commentaries which I should like to discuss to you with you. Huzur is saying that I mentioned to you that there is a note of Muslim Zanho which I wanted to present to you. It's a very comprehensive note, and I shall present that to you now. Allah has told us how to look after wealth in Islam, and in comparison, no other religion has said anything, because in the way that the Islam has set inheritance, no other religion has. And these are the notes on this verse, and the discussion had not been published, but the notes had been written, which we have now got in front of us. Islam has set the inheritance that no one else has, neither the Christians, nor the Jews, nor the Aryans, nor any other religion. No other religions, all aspects. I was saying that there might be some mistake here, that no other religion has kept in view all the different points of view. In inheritance, it says that all the inheritance should be given to the eldest child, and in some countries it is given to the sons and not the daughters, but in some places it's given to the daughters. But they don't care of the parents. Sometimes when the husband dies, the wife is not given anything, and vice versa. And in England and in Europe, this also happens, that when the husband dies, then everything is given to the wife. If there are no children, and those rights that Allah has set about other near relatives, etc., they're all ignored. And in this regard, there is also another advice that needs to be given. If a law of a country, people make an excuse of it, and they say, and they ignore Sharia, the Sharia law, then the Jamaat and does not touch it because the law has permitted it. If the Jamaat interferes, then the law will complain that why have you punished someone who's going on our law. If due to this reason the Jamaat does not give any particular punishment, then it does not mean at all that these people are not going to be punishable in the eyes of Allah. Allah is not bound by whether the Jamaat has taken action or not. Allah is not bound by this, that because the Jamaat has taken action, so He will not punish further. The action of the Jamaat is an expression of dislike of an organization, which doesn't have to be exactly in accordance with the crime. It is an expression of dislike. If you cut someone if you cut them from the Jamaat, although they still believe, they can still believe in the Messiah Islam and so on. But you cannot say that now that he has been punished, so that his future is now in peace. This is not the case at all. These are just a organizational need that has been fulfilled, and such a person who breaks the laws of the Holy Quran, and it goes it he goes rebels against the system of in the society, then he becomes a greater sinner than other other no ordinary sins. So they're saying that rebellion is a very major sin. That's what Satan has done, and actually the definition of sin is rebellion. That the one who rebels, he will he will be punished. So if the country's laws give someone rights which have other people's part in it as well, then the country's laws cannot save a person from God's laws. And a definite example of this is found in the decision of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, when he says that if someone who is very good at speaking, if he in the distribution of inheritance, he says something to me in the sense that I become satisfied that this is his right, whereas in the eyes of God he is not, he does not have the right. So this is a possibility that has been raised with Huzur saying that I don't think this would ever have happened, but the Holy Prophet ﷺ, for our guidance, he has presented many such possibilities. That, for example, he says that even if my daughter Fatima steals, then I will also cut her hand. So this doesn't mean that Nauzubillah Fatima there was a possibility that she may steal. So this is a similar kind of matter which appears to be impossible, but for the sake of the reformation of his ummah, the Holy Prophet ﷺ, this was his style, that he would raise possibilities and then he would respond to them so that other people can learn. So he says that if I give it to that person who convinces me through his argument that he is right, and then if he convinces me, then that doesn't mean that he should be satisfied that I have given it to him. He is eating a portion of hell. So if this person, if this does not permit, if the Holy Prophet ﷺ does not permit someone to have it, then what difference does it make if the government of Germany or the government of Pakistan make a decision? He can be saved from the Jamaat, but he cannot be saved from God. So those people's own responsibility that they should fulfill all such rights which the law does not compel them to, but doesn't stop them from doing so either. Such, so saying, for example, you can gift your inheritance to anyone, and then those people who and if you keep those people away from it, from receiving it, who Allah has given them the right to, then it you will be punished for that. So you should do it because Allah's sword is hanging on your heads, and it will not leave you if you disobey and if you adopt a style of rebellion. And this should be you should be very strict about this. After this, Huzur saying, because the time has gone. I was asking how much time was required. Half an hour was required. Huzur saying, I think in this time, I think if we read a few references of the Orientalists, then it will be okay. Huzur is saying that Rodwell has said something right, and he said that it's a wise provision and the circumstances of the time. Huzur is saying that it's not just the circumstances, it's forever. It's a wise decision for forever that applies for all time. he says that the Richard Bell's commentary is that general recognition of rights, this is perhaps a verse from before when this definition was given, whereas this is the title of the whole of the inheritance system. The basic principle have all been discussed in this. There is no section of the distribution of inheritance which is outside the circle of this verse. As I said, I've explained this before, but it's not been understood. Huzur is saying that what's that phrase that if the enemy speaks, then it's enjoyable. Huzur is asking what the Persian phrase is. Huzur is talking to Imam Sahib. Huzur is saying that what is enjoyable is that even worry has instead of saying something negative about it, he has used excellent words of praise. His words are: the importance of this reform cannot be overrated. Previous to this, women and helpless children might be disinherited by the adult male heir and thus be reduced to absolute penury for no fault but that of being widows and orphans. And his giving this tribute that cannot be overrated is a great thing, and this has the Quran has made him shout out that this is an incredible words. Huzur is saying that I had said that I will keep some time aside on Sunday for those people who wish to ask questions. Huzur is saying that you're going to do this, so sort it out. Huzur is saying that read the reference. I think Huzur is speaking to Mini Javed sir. Yesterday there was a verse of the Holy Quran which starts with Totu Sufaha, and before that on Thursday, when we began the commentary, that everything became clear. But yesterday the word Qiyam was said to be the address, and Huzur could Huzur shed light on this? Huzur is saying this matter is good that it's been raised. Huzur is saying that this come from somewhere outside, or he's saying that this is as a result of you and Imam Sahib combining forces. Huzur is saying this is a very important matter, and if it was ignored, then it could have created problems in different places, and some grammarians could have asked questions that perhaps I have forgotten and I have made a wrong translation. I have not done that. In fact, I have translated it in a way which Huzur is saying that I have never found in any other translation or any other commentaries, but it is exactly in accordance with what the requirements, what the verse is saying, and also in accordance with the grammar of Arabic. Huzur is saying until I can make this clear, they won't understand. The Qiyaman, I translated this to mean, which I have, before this, I have all the commentators and all the translators have done. That means that the wealth is your Qiyam. The wealth is a source of your nourishment. So the Qiyaman has been referred. The word Qiyamah is about the wealth, and whose wealth is that? It belongs to the orphans and the poor people. So when the commentators comment on this, they try to find reasons and it appears very clearly that they don't understand what's being said, because it says it's your wealth, but the wealth is that of the orphans, and qiyaman as if it is qiyam for you. So what is this discussion? They fail to understand this, and Hazur is saying that I shed light on this in this way, that if you take it to mean this, then the national wealth will it is essential for the financial life of a people. And when there is a chance that some people who are incapable of looking after that wealth, and who cannot fulfill the just business manner, then the whole country's finances can be thrown into disarray. Huzur is saying that, especially if there is a majority, Huzur is saying that Medina, how many people were there in Medina? Huzur is saying that it happened. There were so many people. So many such incidents have occurred in Medina, that these instructions had to be given, that it is true that the wealth is the source of steadfastness for the whole nation, but individually the ownership belongs to the orphans. And the other meaning that I gave, Huzur is saying that this problem is not raised. In fact, the commentary on this verse is done, and that translation is this: Amwalahum, if it says first, Fatfu is the verse before this one, Qiyaman, Wala Totu Sufaha Amwalakum, that don't let give the foolish their wealth, unless those who have been made a source of qiyam for you, steadfastness for you, and only clothe them and feed them. Huzur is saying that I took it to mean that here the master is not the orphans and the poor, but only such poor who actually don't have any wealth. And in such a case, despite the fact that the wealth is not theirs, it's yours, there to take care of them and to fulfill their basic rights. This will be your obligation. This is one of the translations that I gave, which is exactly in accordance with the first translation, that although the qiyam was for you, but you must give the benefit to other people. We're saying now that the translation I'm doing is one that they are pointing towards. The translation I did was that the wealth upon whom you have been made guardian, which has been given to you in your care, then, because apparently this seems not the right translation with respect to the grammar, so often commentators have not even thought about this, whereas it's not a deviation from the grammar. There is no need to look for any excuses, and it's exactly in accordance with the grammar of Arabic, and it's a very excellent translation. And then it would be like this. The translation would be so that don't give your wealth, that wealth which Allah has given to you into your care, as you are the qiyam, that is, that as you are the guardian, they have been given to you. So that's why we are saying that it is your wealth, because you are the qiyam. So the word qiyam refers to them in the sense that because you are the guardians of that wealth, so this is given to your care and it is being called your wealth, but in actual fact it is not your wealth. So this translation is exactly in accordance with the Arabic grammar, and also in accordance with the what this verse is trying to say. So saying this is good that you asked for an explanation. It's strange that other ulama did not think about this and they did not raise this question, or maybe they did think of it, but they were worried about the answers that were given before. But it's good that you raised it. Is saying, do you understand it now? Imam Sahib is saying that he's understood it, that Qiyaman here does not mean the wealth, it means those people in the sense that they are made responsible for that wealth. So for you, so this wealth has been put into your care in the sense that you are Qiyam. Now next Huzur is asking what next question is. I was asking about Surah An-Nisaa, that Huzur mentioned some Orientalist when he was discussing Surah An-Nisaa that they regard it to be have been revealed in Medina, and in this regard, this verse, Ya ayyuhan nasu inni lakum rasulan jamiyan, Huzur is saying that let me first make an explanation about this. Before this, when the commentary was being done on this verse, I said that Wari has asked this question, and apart from him, Noldik or Noldeke, whatever the pronunciation is, he is also an Orientalist who is German. That in Surah Nisa, although it's revealed in Medina, but some of his verses were revealed in Mecca. Or although Surah Nisa was revealed in the time after Battle of Badr, etc., and Huzur was asking, and the quarrels that took place with Banu Kanka, it was revealed at that time, but these two Orientalists are saying that some of its verses are not to do with that era. They say that some have to do with the initial time in Medina, some are of a later period or earlier period, and Noldeke is saying that they are Meccan. So in that respect, in that regard, I called for these references. No, when Noldeke is saying that they are Meccan, it doesn't mean that they are before the Meccan era. All he wants to say is that when the Holy Prophet ﷺ returned to Mecca, then while he was in Mecca, these were revealed. That is why they are Meccan. But other people have made it clear that this you cannot take this to mean that they were revealed in Mecca or in Medina. What is meant is that were they revealed before Hijrah or after the migration? Before or after the migration. So when he says Meccan, it doesn't mean that it was revealed before migration in Mecca. And also the question that Wari raised is he is not calling this verse a Meccan verse. He is not saying that it was before the Hijrah. He said in the beginning of the migration, and the reason for this he's giving was very strange. He's saying that the addressed Ya ayyuhan An-Nasu, although the reference he gives is not mentioned there at all. So we're saying I don't know whether there's a mistake in the reference. What he means to say, I shall present that to you. That he's saying that in the beginning of the Medinite era, the Holy Prophet ﷺ, as if he was trying to please the Jews, and this is why when there was opposition, then the softness was removed. So these verses, which teach excellent justice, and it accepts the Jews' good qualities, then so he's saying, so what he's trying to say is that if someone does not understand the great aims of Islam, the great teachings of Islam, then that's what you have to accept. But if you take those verses and try to fit them anywhere else, you will not be able to do it, because this verse of the Holy Quran is well positioned. And so if someone just makes a guess and says that for the reason that because it's it praises the Jews, so therefore it must be from before. It is complete rubbish. And Huzur is saying that and there's also a slight indication towards this fact that when Allah says Ya ayyuhan nas, that O ye people, then this is was present before the relationship with the people of the book. And then Allah then started to say Ya ahlul kitab, that O ye people of the book, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha, O ye who believe, those people who believe and who are righteous. And that kind of an address has then begun either to believers or to the people of the book, so as if the time of Mecca has been left behind. And because there weren't many people of the book, so the Quran kept saying An-Nas, that O ye people, rather than any particular people. So Huzur is saying that this is the reason, in order to answer this such an allegation, I said to find out where this verse was revealed. Huzur is saying that even where he accepts that it's a verse from the Meccan era, and there the what is being mentioned is, and it doesn't specify idolaters. Allah is saying, O people of the world, whether you are living in Mecca, Medina, or Arabs or non-Arab, Inni Rasulullah alaykum jamia, I am a prophet towards all of you. And why in the presence of this verse, it makes it even clearer, and makes its subject appear make it even more clear that according to the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he never his address were never just the Meccans, it was the whole of the world. When particular people were being addressed, and then they were kept in view, and separate verses were revealed for them. But when the verses to do with the law were revealed, then righteous people and believers were addressed. That was the time when there were some prophecies were being revealed about the future, and it was in order to console the people. There were such prophecies were given which proved that this person is not speaking from himself. He's speaking as a representative of Allah, who is a knower of the unseen. Huzur is saying that now what we have found out is that this is from much previous, much more previously, much earlier. This is a book. This is a reference from Bukhari, that there once Abu Bakr Anhu and I think Umar Anhu had a argument, and he went to the Holy Prophet ﷺ. The Holy Prophet ﷺ replied, and Mir Joseph is reading the Arabic. So saying it's a strange reference. It came at the time when Islam had only just begun, and Umar Zano hadn't become a Muslim as yet, and neither had other companions. In front of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, there was a disagreement came, which was between Hazrat Umar bin Khattab and Abu Bakr Zanho. Hazrat was asking whether he's called Ibn al-Khattab. They had so saying that his title is Al-Faruq. Say that they had a disagreement, and the Holy Prophet ﷺ regarded Abu Bakr Anhu as being the one who was transgressed against, and he was upset about this. And the response to this, he says that, will you leave my companion alone or not? Taraktum li, for my sake, will you leave him alone or not? He is the one who, when I declared that Ya ayyuhan nasu inni Rasulullah alaykum jamia, then you are the people who said that he's lying, and he said that no, he's telling the truth. What a beautiful reference this is, and the reason for his closeness to him was because of the sake of Allah, the one who is brave and the one who did not care about what the people of Mecca were thinking, and he didn't care about his didn't care about his leadership or anything. And this is the verse that he read, Ya ayyuhan nasu inni rasulullahi alaykum jamia, meaning that in the very beginning, in the beginning of the revelation of the Holy Quran, the Holy Prophet ﷺ had addressed the whole of mankind, and it's wrong that the Holy Prophet ﷺ slowly evolved his claim to include the whole world. From the very beginning, he was including the whole world in it. Those asking if there is any other question, locally or not locally, who were saying the Dr. Sahib has got up to ask a question. They're saying, what's your name? He's saying that you should say who your name is. Those asking him where he's from, he said that he's from Kulli, I think. They're saying that you are married here in London, and they're saying that you went to Tanzania, you've done Waqf. He's saying that Huzur mentioned AIDS, and about this he's saying that he wanted to ask a question. The Huzur said that the Prophet ﷺ said that there will be a kind of a plague, and when you compare the two, then AIDS has a direct relation to do with moral excesses, but plague didn't have anything to do with that. So if it was as a proof of the truth of the Prophet ﷺ, then when the Holy Prophet, the Prophet ﷺ was promised that anyone who is in your home will also will be saved from the plague. The same promise applied to AIDS as well. Huzur is saying this this question was raised by someone else as well. Huzur is saying that your question first took on one path and then it stopped. You should have had two questions. One is that this plague, if we call this one kind of plague, which has to do with the moral moral excesses, and that the other plague at the time of the Prophet ﷺ only had to do with his denial. Huzur is saying that perhaps you've forgotten that I also tied this with that tradition of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, where there was a prophecy that in the future there will be a kind of plague as a punishment, which will be the punishment of moral excesses, as a punishment for committing moral excesses. So you should see that there is a rejection aspect here, that the Prophet ﷺ was also presenting a kind of plague which will come as a future as a punishment, and in that Allah is so it's a plague which has to do with moral excesses, and it is as a result of such acts. Then if Allah uses it for the Prophet ﷺ in order to prove his truth, then there is nothing wrong with it, because Allah also uses natural disasters to prove the truth of a prophet. So this can also be used. So this is one aspect, and the other aspect is that when I said this, I did not mean that someone who becomes an Ahmadi, he commits those acts as a result of which AIDS is contracted, and and he becomes an Ahmadi, so he'll be saved. Huzur saying that Manfiddar has this subject in it, that the one who is in the four walls will be saved, and the Prophet ﷺ had made it very clear that Ad-Dar doesn't just mean this four walls. It means the four walls, not the brick four walls. It means the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ's teachings, and he has mentioned this in the book Kashti Nuh, which is Noah's Ark. So only a person who is in the ark will be saved, not people who are outside not people who are outside the boat. So although Noah's son was his family, but he wasn't a part of his the family who was in in the boat, so they weren't part of his true family. And Huzur saying that I had this question before as well, and I responded to it. Huzur saying that he said that I believe that if someone has previously been making mistakes and then he believes, and then it may well be that Allah, in comparison to other people, Allah may protect them and protect him and show him as an example. But somebody who performs bad and then he breaks the doors and goes out, then his protection is not guaranteed. It will be like that donkey which I've explained before as well, that a wolf came and there was a donkey outside, just tied up. He brayed, and the a cock sitting on a wall also made a sound, and the master ran away, and the donkey thought he was safe, and he ran after it, and it became a victim. So those who break the ropes and they get themselves out of the protection of the homes, then there is no guarantee for them. But other people, as we're saying, sometimes Allah shows a sign of mercy, and such a sign is possible. And as we're saying that I don't regard it as being impossible, that in favor of the Prophet Islam, it should be shown that many people who had previously made mistakes, and even if they had HIV positive, they were HIV positive, they still were saved, their lives were saved. And as we were saying that the medicine that I give also showed me some strange facts, that by the grace of God, Ahmadis were almost all saved, because they are also reminded to seek forgiveness. Huzur is saying that because of Africa and the way that Africa is, there are some people like that, but this medicine did not act on all the other people in the same way, because they didn't have the extra protection of the dar, of the so in this regard as well, it might have had an influence. But because about the Ahmadi world, we have the belief that by the grace of God, a majority of them are living a life of righteousness, and they are in the dar, in the family. So the family of, or the Noah's Ark, or the Prophet Islam's Ark, then they will be saved, and they will be distinguished from others. Who are saying the time is very little now. But there is another question. Who are saying if you have any power to walk, then walk. Who are saying the poor guy is walking with difficulty. Assalamu alaikum. He's saying his name is Maghfoor Ahmad Quraishi. Huzur is saying that Huzur saying you came from Karachi before, not now. He's saying that if someone had a meher for 5,000 30 years ago, how much is it going to be now? Huzur is saying it's still 5,000. Huzur is saying if it's a loan, then what happens to the loan? It will be the same. So Huzur is saying it's a loan on you, but if your wife has demanded it and you don't give it, then you are gone. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.